Harry and Meghan have got the South Park treatment. The episode has just gone to air in the United States. And Harry and Meghan, well, they were treated like the prince and princess of me that they deserved to be. Here's just a little taste.
And so spot on. Yeah, South Park eviscerates Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have now decided, finally, after a complete flop at being Megxit, to return back here to the United Kingdom.
South Park did not just choose Harry and Meghan for another joke. It chose the moment their public story appears to be collapsing in front of Britain, America, Hollywood, and the royal family they spent 6 years trying to overpower. The announcement lands like a warning shot because the timing feels too perfect. Harry and Meghan are being framed as crawling back to Britain broken, and possibly running from a federal arrest, turning their return from a family move into a global humiliation. This is South Park walking into the wreckage and asking the question nobody wants asked out loud. Did the couple return because they wanted Britain, or because America was becoming too dangerous? South Park does not miss. Trey Parker and Matt Stone do not build brutal episodes by randomly choosing celebrities and inventing chaos. They wait. They watch. They let the contradiction grow until the public image and private reality become impossible to defend. That is the rule they have followed across 30 years of television, and when they strike, the joke does not disappear after one broadcast. It stays in the culture like a scar. South Park waited until the gap between what Harry and Meghan claimed and what they now appear to be became visible to everyone at once. They did it to Scientology, they did it to Kanye West, they did it to Tiger Woods, they did it to Donald Trump. And they already did it once to Harry and Meghan with the Worldwide Privacy Tour episode, the one that allegedly left Meghan unable to get out of bed for days after it aired. But that episode now looks less like an attack and more like a rehearsal. Because back then, the Sussex illusion still had walls around it. They still had the Netflix deal, the Montecito mansion, and the California dream built on publicly destroying the family they left behind. There was enough glamour to pretend South Park was exaggerating. Now the shield is gone. That is what makes this second episode devastating. The money is described as gone. The career is described as over. The American dream is presented as collapsed. Hollywood figures who once seemed useful have reportedly backed away slowly, leaving the Sussexes without the glow they expected to carry forever. South Park did not move when things were merely uncomfortable. It moved when things were described as completely, utterly, and irreversibly wrong. That is when Parker and Stone saw the opening, when satire became a royal postmortem. South Park does not need to invent scandals. It takes real interviews, quotes, moments, claims, and public performances, then places them beside reality until the audience laughs at the collision. Meghan said she had to flee to protect her mental health, her marriage, and the safety of her children. She suggested there was no path back. She said Britain had shown her exactly who it was. Now she is reportedly moving back to Britain voluntarily with those same children into a private residence, enrolling them into British schools without a public apology, without admitting anything may have been exaggerated, and with coordinated briefings to 2 newspapers. That is cultural punishment waiting to be animated. The first South Park episode captured the privacy hypocrisy. Cartoon Meghan demanding privacy while cameras followed every step. But this time, the writers have something more explosive, a total reversal of the Sussex identity. This is about returning to the place they painted as unsafe, hostile, and emotionally destructive. South Park now has the cleanest storyline possible. A couple who built a global brand around escaping Britain, now needing Britain again. Then the story darkens, because the reason behind the return is framed as bigger than hypocrisy. South Park's writers monitor public anger like military strategists. They look for what everyone is laughing at, whispering about, and what mainstream media keeps circling without saying directly. Right now, that thing is Harry's America problem. Not popularity. Not money. A federal paperwork problem. The Heritage Foundation, described as one of Washington's most powerful think tanks, has been fighting a federal court battle to force the full public release of Prince Harry's immigration records. What surfaced is portrayed as staggering. Nearly 300 documents, close to 2,500 pages, all connected to how Prince Harry entered and remained in the United States as a legal resident. The central question is brutal. In Spare, Harry openly wrote about cannabis, cocaine, and psychedelic mushrooms. The American visa application asks applicants whether they have ever used illegal drugs. So the accusation splits into two possibilities. Either Harry lied on a federal form, framed as a criminal offense carrying a possible prison sentence of up to 5 years. Or he told the truth and received extraordinary preferential treatment no ordinary applicant would receive. That is the nightmare South Park can animate. The source material frames the Trump administration as more cooperative about releasing those records than the previous administration, then drops the most damaging implication: the documents are coming regardless of what anyone wants. And Harry left before they arrived. Suddenly, the British return stops looking emotional. It starts looking strategic. It starts looking like a retreat before impact. And the old South Park joke about cartoon Harry trying to make £50 billion by himself no longer feels absurd. It feels like a prophecy with paperwork attached. 2 years ago, South Park showed cartoon Harry and cartoon Meghan riding a public bus to work because HTV had canceled their show. Meghan was talking about auditioning again. Harry looked lost, confused, and useless in the background. At the time, people laughed because it felt like an exaggerated future. Now the joke feels darker because it reads like a warning that came true too early. The cartoon was not mocking a fantasy. It was exposing the direction of travel before the Sussexes themselves could admit where the road was leading. Then came the legal earthquake, and suddenly South Park had material no comedy writer could manufacture. The judge in the Daily Mail case delivered a ruling described as shocking in severity. Harry's conduct was framed as unreasonable to a high degree. No cap was placed on legal costs. A $9.5 million payment was described as immediately due within days, while total potential liability was said to be rising toward $34.5 million before any final settlement. That is not a punchline. That is a financial trapdoor opening under a prince who once thought freedom meant never answering to the palace again. And then the case did not merely fail. It collapsed with humiliation inside the room itself. Their own star witness reportedly walked back critical parts of his testimony during the proceedings. Harry allegedly reached out to fellow claimants to see if the mounting costs could somehow be shared, but those conversations did not deliver the escape route he needed. Insurance may cover the first payment, but after that, the source frames the problem as Harry's alone. No Hollywood savior, no palace rescue, no emotional interview powerful enough to erase the bill. This is where South Park's writers would sharpen the knife. They already mocked cartoon Meghan doing a sponsored Instagram post for a fast food restaurant, and cartoon Harry wandering around a 9-bedroom mansion with nothing meaningful to do while bills piled up. Now, the real version gives them a £34 million legal nightmare, a visa scandal, a mystery acting job nobody can verify, and a lifestyle company selling runny jam, wickless candles, and flower sprinkles to an audience that has quietly stopped caring. The writer's room must feel like Christmas came early. But the most dangerous new angle is not Meghan alone. It is Catherine. Not as a target, but as the contrast. South Park understands that the cruelest satire does not always attack directly. Sometimes it places two people side by side and lets the difference destroy one of them. Catherine entered the same royal system, endured pressure, public judgment, and brutal scrutiny, then faced a cancer diagnosis with quiet dignity, visible love for her children, and a calm that made even non-royal watchers care deeply about her well-being. She returned more beloved than ever. And now, the woman who spent 6 years making that life harder is reportedly returning to the same country without one word of apology. South Park does not need Catherine to say anything. The silence says everything. Meghan arrives with a publicist, a jam brand, and an unnamed acting opportunity no journalist can locate. Catherine stands as composure. Meghan becomes performance. Catherine represents continuity. Meghan represents chaos. That contrast is not just comedic, it is fatal to the Sussex narrative. Back in January, William quietly brought a senior crisis management professional into his team without a public announcement. Months before this became open warfare, he had already prepared. That detail changes everything, because it suggests William saw the storm before others admitted it was coming. South Park already portrayed cartoon William as composed, while Harry stumbled from disaster to disaster. Now the contrast is even sharper. William has time. Harry does not. When William becomes king, the titles can disappear, the royal connection can be severed, and everything Harry raced back to protect may vanish permanently. That is why South Park will not struggle for material. Meghan said Britain was racist. Now she is returning voluntarily. She said the institution made her unsafe. Now her children are reportedly entering British schools. She said privacy mattered most. Yet 2 national newspapers were briefed before the family could absorb the move. She said she sacrificed a thriving Hollywood career, though the source claims she had already been written out of Suits before Harry entered her life. She hinted at a mystery acting job that remains unnamed, unconfirmed, and unverifiable. Even the brand story turns against her. The Netflix lifestyle show was supposed to establish her as a cultural force, yet the source frames it as one of the least watched productions on the platform, and something she barely promoted beyond launch week. As ever was supposed to prove power, taste, and influence. Instead, it is reduced here to runny jam, wickless candles, and flower sprinkles. South Park does not need to exaggerate. It only needs to read Meghan's old promises, then show what followed. And Britain's response may be the final humiliation. A live poll reportedly showed 89% saying they did not want Harry and Meghan back in the United Kingdom. Calvin Mackenzie, former editor of The Sun, said plainly that Meghan will be booed in public. Not might be, will be. South Park can already animate it. Meghan expecting cheers, warmth, vindication, and instead facing the country she accused on a sofa in California before 50 million viewers. The last twist is the most dangerous. Trey Parker and Matt Stone have never lost a legal challenge to a South Park episode. Meghan cannot stop it. Lawyers cannot bury it. Publicists cannot spin it away. The more anyone tries to fight, the more viewers arrive early. South Park is ready. Britain is ready. Harry and Meghan are returning to the stage they thought they had escaped. But this time, the palace may not be the threat. The cartoon may be. And the episode has not even aired yet.